The first sign wasn't pain, but a sound. A low, crystalline chime that wasn't coming through her helmet comms, but from inside her own skull. Dr. Rina Ishida's breath hitched. She was floating in the cockpit of the Mayfly, her tiny one-woman research pod tethered to a rogue asteroid in the outer frontier. Out here, silence was the norm. The only sounds should have been the hum of the life support and the frantic beat of her own heart. But the chime was growing, a dissonant harmony that vibrated through her bones. A warning light flashed on her console. Field inversion, containment collapsing. No. Her prototype was supposed to be the answer. For 5 years, ever since the official report claimed a standard reactor flaw had turned her brother's freighter into incandescent plasma, Rina had pursued this one obsession. She knew the official stories were lies. Ships weren't just failing. They were being erased by something fundamental, something the Earth-Luna Commonwealth refused to name. She called it the Decay. Her device, the Ishida resonator, wasn't meant to block the decay, but to bend it, to create a small, stable pocket of space-time around a ship's drive, a shield woven from physics itself. The chime sharpened into a chorus. A coldness, deep and invasive, spread up her arm from the console she was touching. She looked down. Through the fabric of her suit, dark fractal patterns were branching across her skin like frost on a window pane. Veins, black as the void, pulsed with a faint internal light. She tried to pull her hand back, but the command from her brain dissolved into static. The cold was in her nerves now, overriding her. Panic lanced through the fog. She had to shut it down. With a grunt of effort, she lunged with her free hand for the emergency cutoff. Her fingers brushed the switch, but her other arm, her traitor arm, lashed out and slammed her hand against the bulkhead with impossible strength. The chime in her head became a deafening roar. She caught a reflection in the curved visor of her helmet, and a choked sob died in her throat. The face staring back was a horror of geometry and flesh. The right side was a lattice of cracked obsidian tissue, the veins beneath pulsing with a sickening red light. But the eye was the epicenter. It was no longer hers. It was a multifaceted crimson crystal, drinking the dim cockpit light and blazing with an internal fire. And through it, she saw the world differently, not as light and shadow, but as pure energy, as equations of force she could almost understand. The song in her skull promised her this new sight was a gift. Liar, she thought, the single word a desperate act of rebellion. The resonator hadn't bent the field. It had focused it into her. It was turning her into the very thing she was trying to build. A containment vessel, a walking tomb. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful. Her brother, Kenji, grinning at her over a datapad, his eyes full of life. "You'll crack it, Rina. You'll make us all safe." The promise of the song was a betrayal of that memory, and a fire far hotter than the one in her crystal eye ignited in her soul. The data. Kenji's death would not be meaningless. Hers would not be meaningless. Her body was a prison, but her mind had one last key. Her left eye, still human, darted to the comms panel. The QEC transmitter, instantaneous, untraceable if you knew the right protocols. Fight it. She poured every last ounce of her remaining self into a single command. Move. Her left hand, trembling violently, lifted from the wall. The entity that she was becoming fought her, the song in her head trying to soothe her with visions of crystalline nebulae seen through her new eye. It only wanted to complete its beautiful, terrible genesis. She ignored it, her fingers mashing against the console, smearing it with blood and condensed moisture. A menu flickered open. Data burst. Encrypt. Transmit. She selected the entire research directory. The destination, a blind send. A shot in the dark aimed at the entire system. The progress bar appeared. 1%. The red light in her transformed eye pulsed, and the pain was absolute. A feeling of being torn apart atom by atom. 18%. A secondary power conduit blew out behind her, showering the cockpit in sparks. The song screamed at her to stop, to preserve the vessel. 35%. Her human eye was blurring, the familiar lines of the console smearing into a gray soup. She was operating on muscle memory now. Her focus narrowed to the faint green line crawling across the screen. 62%. The thing inside her changed tactics. It showed her Kenji's face again, not smiling, but terrified, his skin cracking just like hers. It was a lie, a cruel weapon to make her falter. For him, she thought, holding on. 87%. Rina Ishida was almost gone. There was only the song, the crystal, and a final echoing ghost of a woman who refused to die in silence. 99%. The last thing her human eyes saw, through a haze of tears and fading light, was the single, beautiful word on the screen. Complete. Then the world became pure red light. Millions of kilometers away, a data packet no bigger than a grain of sand and containing a truth that could shatter worlds, began its silent journey toward anyone who might be listening.